For more awesome content, like and subscribe now.
There's an old western town that had fallen into ruin, that had existed since it was built in 1864, and I have lived in Arizona my whole life, hearing ghost stories that my grandparents used to tell me at night when I visited them as a small child. In this city, I stayed with my workaholic parents that often neglected me, and I didn't grow up having any actual friends, so my grandparents were really the only people that kept me company. At the time of this story, I was 14 years old, and this was the mid-1990s. I was home alone on the weekends, as I had chores to do, and I often took the bus to get to my grandparents' ranch outside of the city after school. My 5-year-old blue heeler dog Pepper always was at my side, and I remember it all occurred in the summertime, early August, on the hottest day of the year. I had woken up around 10 at night, and I heard my grandparents arguing downstairs in the kitchen. I snuck into the living room quietly and listened in as my grandfather mentioned something about missing people. These people were last seen venturing in a restricted area that was supposed to be closed off to the public. I was always a curious kid that went to neat, weird places by themselves without adults knowing, so I wasn't that type that got scared easily, and I never really believed in the supernatural either, till I experienced an encounter with the phantom horse. My grandmother, a Native American, was a very paranoid person to most, and she firmly took all things very seriously, especially when it came to bad omens and curses. The western town itself was hardly ever talked about, because many city folk learned that it was best to keep the past buried, and even thinking of the past some felt would lead curious people into situations that they should never be in the first place. The phantom horse is said to have originated from when the town was built, a harbinger of misfortune to those who cross it. The first recorded incident dates back to the winter of 1864, when a famine broke out in the town and only 30 people lived in it. An old man resided in the mountain above the town, and he hated anyone who was invading on the land he claimed as his. Some say that the phantom horse came from a form of dark magic, as the old man was believed to be a cultist or a sorcerer. Some say the phantom horse was once his beloved horse that had been a wild one, that was targeted by the town's residents, and had been shot and killed. My grandmother believed that the horse had been resurrected to seek revenge on those responsible for its death. In the winter of 1864, food and drink was scarce, and the people of the town started turning on each other. A few were reported to have had manic episodes, claiming to have seen the phantom horse on their properties, where they kept their livestock and cattle. Not a single one of them owned a horse, in fact, but somehow, for whatever reason, whenever someone went to check on their cattle, they'd come across a sign hung on a tree that said, "Caution, horses may bite." It was strange enough these signs would appear out of nowhere, but nobody could figure out who had them posted on the trees. There were no footprints in the freshly fallen snow besides the landowners. Eventually, everyone's cattle started acting peculiar, refusing to eat their slop. They started getting sick under mysterious circumstances. Some cows would break through their fences and run off. A few had dropped dead. 3 people were attacked by their prized hogs. These animals were possessed, some claimed, and the phantom horse was always present prior to these occurrences. It is said that if anyone sees the phantom horse, bad things would happen: injury, sickness, death to person or animal. It didn't matter who. And the victims weren't just picked by random. It was also stated that the horse hadn't acted alone. It was given orders. Somebody was commanding it. The old man of the mountain, of course, was suspected of this, but eventually was presumed to have died, although his body was never recovered. The phantom horse remained, killing everyone until there was nothing left, and a fire broke out. It hadn't lasted long, but it had caused some significant damage, and of course there are, still to this day, most of the structures still intact. Many avoided the town in fear of attracting the phantom horse, as some said that it could follow them back to the city and torment them till they go insane. Some were unlucky enough to have seen two white orbs of light shining through the darkness outside their bedroom windows, seeing the rotting, skeletal face of the phantom horse. Children, teenagers, and college kids were always warned that if they went out to the abandoned town late at night, the phantom horse would come after them. Some parents said to their children if they misbehaved, they would give them away to feed it. That's what my grandmother said. When she was a young girl, she heard stories about how children in her tribe went missing, claiming others have seen the ghostly apparition of the old man of the mountain, as their camp was just a quarter of a mile away from the town. I remember I couldn't sleep one night. My grandmother told me. I was 9 years old. I was thirsty and had decided to leave my tent. I eventually reached the river to fill up my canteen. That's when I saw him. The moon was the color of crimson. The air was still, but I felt a coldness run up my spine. The old man was a pale blue, seemed to be floating, and had only his left arm. There was a bloody stump where his right arm should have been. His clothing was tattered as well. His eyes were hollow, black as pitch, and soulless. He just stood on the other side of the river staring at me. His smile was the most unsettling. His teeth were yellow with some type of meat hanging from what was left of his jaw. He had vanished after a minute had gone by. I hadn't slept for 3 weeks since that night. I had trouble eating the past couple days after that. I went completely mute for a while. For 5 years I hadn't spoken another word, because for the time frame we had stayed in that area, I was too afraid to talk about what I saw. I was forbidden from leaving my tent without an adult supervising, as back then, people were really convinced that the curse was real. She then added, I don't know if anyone else had seen the ghost of the old man, but I wouldn't doubt it either. My grandparents said that I was never allowed to go to the town, as they felt that if people stayed away, the curse wouldn't spread anymore. Now, as I mentioned before, I didn't believe in ghosts or anything like that until I had my experience. I regret doing what I did. I wish I had listened to them. I asked my grandfather about the weird signs that people found on their properties, and he said that according to speculation, the old man of the mountain left the signs as a warning to others. He said that the phantom horse more likely attracted others of its kind to roam onto the land, possessing them to attack people and other animals. The horses would bite, go savage. They would try to eat anything that were in their line of sight, that moved on 2 legs or 4 that was the opposite species. Sometimes they were successful. Out of 30 people who were citizens of the town, there were 5 casualties to start with, all who were small children that were human sacrifices to keep the phantom horse at bay. Keep it fed, my grandfather said. Keep it fed and it won't come after you. If someone had beef with you, you were chosen to be the next victim. One night I had tossed and turned in my bed. My parents, of course, were out, and it was just me and my dog Pepper. It was around 8 in the evening when I got up and packed my bag, arming myself with a flashlight. I wore a necklace that my grandmother had made me. I walked a long ways and snuck out onto the last bus that was scheduled for the night. I had taken my bike with me and I rode it till I came across the long-neglected, decaying western town. Pepper remained at my side. I had slowly made my way, passing every structure. The wind was howling and the moon had shined over the mountain. After a bit of roaming in the town, I then heard a sound. It sounded like whistling. It drew closer and closer. I grabbed Pepper and I hid behind a stack of barrels. The whistling got louder and louder. It was so loud that I felt it ringing in my ears. When I peered slyly around the corner, that's when my heart sank and my blood ran cold.